Bulletcast for life.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Under the Radar. My name is Brandon, and on today's episode we will be going over the latest episode of NXT TV with the fallout of NXT TakeOver Phoenix, as well as Total Bellas. Total Bellas took a break this past weekend because of the Super Bowl, but I did not cover 2 weeks ago, so I will be going over that episode, as well as some news, including maybe some new people showing up for AEW. But first, let's talk about the WWE Hall of Fame. PW Insider has reported that apparently the original Hart Foundation is going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, this being Bret Hart and Jimmy Hart, who are already in the Hall of Fame. And obviously the third and final one being Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who passed away last year. He is not in the Hall of Fame, so he would be the only one who is technically a new person being inducted. And, you know, I mean, the Hart Foundation is a very historical, I definitely would, with the WWE's standard of Hall of Fame, they definitely are good enough to be in there. Obviously, we would have much rather been having Jim Neidhart be in there living to give a speech, because he's obviously the only one that hasn't been in there yet, so he's kind of the one person you'd want to see his speech compared to the other two. But if this is kind of like a posthumous induction of, this is like just mainly just to get Jim Neidhart in there without having it be, you know, so sad to where it's only him. So like you know, Natalia does the introduction, and maybe her mom or maybe Brett gives the speech for Jim. This is where you kind of, it's still going to be sad because Jim's not going to be there, but you can kind of like dance around it. You can talk about Jim, but you can also focus on the tag team and all this other stuff. So if this is true, it makes a whole lot of sense. Is this the headliner? We haven't really talked about WWE Hall of Fame that much on the Bulletcast, which isn't really a big surprise because there's been so much news happening in the world of wrestling so far, and the Hall of Fame is always kind of an afterthought. And with this, with the Hall of Fame going head-to-head with the ROH New Japan MSG show, do you think, I don't know if WWE is going to try to go too hard and try to compete with them, or they're just going to maybe not give like a lackluster Hall of Fame, but maybe don't pull out the big guns, maybe you don't pull out The Rock, maybe you don't pull out The Undertaker for this one, just knowing that you're taking the L. You know that you're not going to be the big show on that Saturday, but then maybe they will just have one big star, and then you can have some other lesser stars. With the WWE Hall of Fame, I mean, we've talked about this in the past. It's not that big of a deal. It's a show more than anything, but I think with WWE, they're running into this issue to where they're having way too many people being inducted. Because I don't know how many people were inducted off the top of my head, like last year, but it feels as though there's like 8. And that's just a lot. I mean, compared to like the Baseball Hall of Fame, who just inducted 4 people. You would think with WWE they can control that and they can have less people be inducted. I mean, if they only inducted 4 or 5 people every single year, maybe you can have one Hall of Fame where it's like a big name where it's only a Rock or only a Vince McMahon that gets inducted, to where you can have like 1 or 2 people to where that carries the show, and you can say, because people aren't going to be going to the Hall of Fame to see, you know, Hillbilly Jim give a Hall of Fame speech. They're going to go there to see The Rock, to see the top people in the industry like Undertaker, Triple H, Vince, other John Cena, you know, those last few people who are still not inducted into the Hall of Fame. So with the Hart Foundation being the first reported, does that mean they're going to be the headliner? Possibly, but I think there's still going to be a big name out there. I think The Rock is the one that makes the most sense if he's not going to wrestle again. I mean, it doesn't matter. We see Jeff Jarrett, Kurt Angle. If you're in the Hall of Fame, that doesn't exactly mean you're not going to wrestle ever again. But with The Rock in his schedule, if he can figure out a way, I think this is kind of the only ace in the hole that WWE has to maybe bring some people over to fill up the Barclays Center opposite of the MSG show. Don't exactly know what the reception is for the Hart Foundation, since it's being the original in not introduction, the original form of them. They're not having like the Attitude Era version where it's like everybody. It's only going to be these three. So I don't know what the reasoning was behind it, because technically Jim Neidhart was in, the early version and the later version. So you could have had all these other guys who unfortunately have passed away, like Owen Hart, Brian Pillman, Bulldog. These guys that should be in the Hall of Fame, to be honest. I mean, if it's a real Hall of Fame or the WWE Hall of Fame. And you can put them in, lump them all together with some other people who are still alive, which, looking at it, I guess Brett's the only one that's still alive, so maybe that's not exactly a good thing. At least Jimmy Hart's going to be there, so there's two people that are alive compared to just one out of whatever, 6 or 7. But going back to it, finishing up, it's fine. I don't really have a problem with the Hart Foundation going to the Hall of Fame. Hopefully they do right by Jim Neidhart and kind of give him, his own little video package and kind of focus on him more than the actual Hart Foundation. So next up, we have another tag team in the news. If you saw Being the Elite, you know what I'm talking about. The Young Bucks went over to, where is it? They went to some indie show. They went over to Georgia for Face Heel Wrestling. I think that's exactly what it's called. But they went over there. The Lucha Brothers, which is Phoenix and Pentagon Jr., just had a match, and they won. And then the Young Bucks came out. They kind of cut a little bit of a promo. Matt making fun of them, saying that they're the second best tag team in the world. And they go back and forth, so you can see the whole interaction on Being the Elite. But the whole thing is that they offered them a handshake agreement to join AEW. So this could be another big get for AEW if they are able to get the Lucha Bros. Some talk about Lucha Underground and MLW and whatever the hell's going on here, but I don't exactly know what their contract status is at the moment. But I think if the Revival aren't going to be free agents going into Double or Nothing, I think having Phoenix and Pentagon go up against the Young Bucks at Double or Nothing can be a very good match. Could a main event possibly, if there's not like if there's a Kenny Omega match out there or some other big time match that they don't have, this can be a contender for main event of Double or Nothing. They even kind of hinted at it, that the performance that those two guys shows that tag team wrestling can be and deserves to be in the main event. And I'm very high on both these guys as a tag team and individually. I think Pentagon definitely, wouldn't say the breakout, but maybe has more potential. He has a little bit more size, a little bit more charisma. Phoenix, he's great as well. He's a little smaller, but that means he can do a little more flashy moves. Promos in English is always a little bit of it's going to be an issue with them, but I think they can jump past that, and they can be a great addition to AEW. So now looking at the roster, you got Joey Janelle, who's on the shelf, you got Adam Page, you got all the Elite guys, and then you got Pac, who's not exactly sure, hasn't heard any announcements of him signing, but he came out and did that tease. So definitely it looks like we're going to get some sort of Pac versus Adam Page match at Double or Nothing. And then we have Chris Jericho, obviously, Kenny Omega, possibly. We have the ticket announce party coming up on Thursday night, so I believe we will be doing the Bullet Cast on Thursday. I'm not exactly sure, so we're not going to talk about that. But there should be some big news coming out of that ticket party, possibly a new signing. Maybe Kenny Omega shows up and he's announced as officially being with AEW. Obviously, there's probably going to be an announcement for when the tickets go on sale and other things like that. So hopefully we can see Phoenix and Pentagon at least at Double or Nothing. Maybe they go to AEW. Who exactly knows right now? So now moving on to the latest edition of NXT. This is the show after NXT TakeOver Phoenix, and this was taking place before TakeOver Phoenix, so we are still at the Talking Stick Arena Resort, or whatever the hell it's called, in Phoenix, Arizona. So the first match, a lot of video packages, a lot of recaps of all the different matches, but there will be 2 matches on this show. The first one is Io Shirai and Kairi Sane going up against Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke. Io and Kairi win in 6 minutes and 36 seconds. This is the second time I think we've seen Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke on NXT TV, and it seems as though they've. This is the second time they've lost. I think they've improved, maybe not a lot, but you can definitely see they've gotten better in the ring. It was kind of obvious. I don't know if to say obvious, but definitely it made it look as though Kairi and Io were going to win. They're much bigger stars individually, and they put them together. They're definitely going to be doing some big things, at least in NXT, possibly on the main roster for Kairi. The whole kind of storyline here is that Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke kind of helped cost Kairi Sane with the championship when she went up against Shayna Baszler. So, in the end, Kairi Sane hit the elbow on Marina Shafir, gets the victory, and Mauro Ranallo kind of put over that she's kind of, put this behind her, and she's kind of got one over on them after all the stuff they've done to them. But with Marina Shafir and Duke kind of being the maybe not heavies, but, cohorts of Shayna Baszler, it's kind of interesting to see how we've only seen them, I believe, in 2 matches on NXT, and they've lost both of them pretty quickly. I mean, this match was 6:36. I thought this might have been a little bit longer, but now looking at it, obviously that's a short match. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Kairi go up to the main roster. Maybe they hold her off for... maybe she can do some NXT TV shows. She has a match every now and then, but I think maybe she's done in NXT. I think with her, Shayna Baszler especially being the champion. I mean, we've kind of seen that already, unless if you're going to give Kairi one last go at it and then have her lose, and then we see her on the Superstar Shakeup. Io, I'm not as high on Io as I am on Kairi. I think I like Kairi a lot more than Io. I haven't exactly seen her promo or her character work in terms of stuff she's done backstage for Io, but I think Kairi has a better character, and I think it's more well developed. Io, once again, she hasn't exactly shown a whole lot on NXT, so maybe now that Bianca Belair's lost, maybe they're not going to go right back to that rematch. Kairi, they could go to that rematch, but I think Io is a logical next step, especially since they did beat Shafir and Duke. But who exactly knows at this point? So I think it's definitely going to be something to watch where Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke end up. Are they going to be going to the main roster? Are they going to ever do this 4 horsewomen feud? It's not looking like it unless they kind of, hot shot it in the next few months, because it looks as though Ronda's not going to be in WWE for much longer. So is it when Shayna Baszler goes up to the main roster, do these two go up to the main roster with her? And I don't think they're ready for that yet. They have shown improvement, but I do think that... they've shown improvement. I don't think they're at the level they need to be. This was a real basic match for them. Duke and Shafir were the heels, so they were putting just a lot of heat on Sane and Io, so they weren't exactly doing a whole lot. Some of the stuff they were doing was a little sloppy, but it wasn't too bad. The crowd was really hot for this match because obviously this is the first match that they've seen, so the crowd's gonna be really hot for it, and they really liked Kairi and Io. Their offensive maneuvers were fantastic, and yeah, so next up we got a video package on the Johnny Gargano Ricochet North American Championship match. Talked about that last week. Fantastic match of the year candidate, and even Johnny Gargano said it. So we do an interview backstage right after Gargano's match, and he talks about how he delivered on his promise. That was a match of the year candidate, and he won the title, and he says that it feels great to win, and he had a kind of a weird smile on his face. You can take it a whole bunch of different ways. You can say oh, maybe Johnny is turning to the dark side. Maybe he's just overcome with emotion. You can take this any different way. So I really am interested to see where they go with the Gargano character. So next up we go to Bianca Belair backstage, and she says that being undefeated was a mindset, and now that she didn't win, she's going to grasp in all this other stuff, and talked about Sam Roberts a little bit, and then we go to a video package on the War Raiders. The War Raiders obviously won. They beat the Undisputed Era to win the Tag Team Championships. So then we go backstage for them. They cut a little bit of a promo. We get a recap of Matt Riddle versus Cassius Ohno. We get an interview from Matt Riddle. I thought this was a very good promo from him. He was very, very serious, straightforward. He said it wasn't about the win because he beat him twice already, but now that he showed that he broke Ono, that he can break anybody else, and he doesn't know. This should show that people shouldn't mess with him. So I thought this was a very good promo from him. Just great seriousness from Riddle. You can still have the kind of bro kookiness from time to time, but when it comes time, when it's time to square up, he gets serious. So next up, we have the main. Well, they go to a lengthy recap of the Tommaso Ciampa and Aleister Black match. No video, no promo afterwards, but then they cut straight to the aftermath that happened with Velveteen Dream, Cole, Ricochet, Ciampa, Black, and everybody to set up the halftime heat show. I'll talk about halftime heat after this NXT match. But they just kind of set up all the stuff that was happening. They announced that halftime heat's going to happen, what time it is, and all that other stuff. So next up, we have the Street Profits, which is Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, going up against the Forgotten Sons of Wesley Blake and Steve Cutler, with Jackson Riker in their corner. And the Forgotten Sons actually win in 7 minutes and 15 seconds. Not a very good match between these four guys. Not a whole lot of heat. Once again, this is I think the crowd kind of realized that this was the only other match they're going to see. They were kind of ready for the actual takeover to happen. So maybe they got a little hot towards the end, but definitely in the beginning and middle stages of this match, wasn't a whole lot of heat going on. I still haven't seen a whole lot from the Forgotten Sons to really impress me as a faction going forward. You can equate them to, if you equate them to Sanity, which is kind of the closest you can see in terms of look and demeanor. It just isn't the same. Maybe you put them in a big time match, like Sanity was in War Games, and that was kind of their breakout moment of getting super over, having a great match. But I just don't think. I mean, Wesley Blake was a part of those, a great match with the Revival, but it's the Revival, so you can put the blame or credit however you would like, but I just haven't seen a whole lot from the Forgotten Sons recently, and they've been together for I think a few years at this point. They've only been on TV for a couple months, but I think the Street Profits are an overact. You have the War Raiders as babyface champions, so it's kind of hard to have them go up against them unless if you turn the Street Profits heel, which was kind of originally where they were, but then they kind of just got over with all the stuff that they would do. So I just don't understand why you would put the Forgotten Sons over. Yes, you had the babyfaces win the match before this, so maybe have the heels win to even it out 50-50 booking, but I feel like there's a much more of an upside with the Street Profits compared to the Forgotten Sons. I mean, as I've said, just the Forgotten Sons have been there for so long, and they just haven't really done a whole lot. Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, they're a great character tag team. You have Heavy Machinery who left. They can kind of fill that void and kind of be, the lovable goofballs. But then when it starts, they're serious. And I don't know, but it was a week after. It was the show after Takeover. Not a whole lot here. Just some lower card matches. A lot of video packages. So not a whole lot. But the Belair calling out Sam Roberts was interesting. So, I mean, I guess you can go check that out. So, you can definitely just skim through this match. You can watch. I would probably recommend watching the women's match more than the men's match. I mean, both of them are kind of equal in length. Not a whole lot there. But I think the crowd was hot for the women's match a lot more. So, that kind of made it a little more interesting. So, you can just kind of skim through, watch the promos afterwards if you've already seen the matches. So speaking of matches, we have the halftime heat match between Ricochet, Aleister Black, and Velveteen Dream going up against Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, and Adam Cole, baby. This one took place, not in Full Sail actually, I thought it was, but it took place inside the Performance Center. You could see in the crowd that there was a lot of the Performance Center wrestlers there, so I think that kind of affected the crowd a little bit. It was kind of weird because they would cut to the crowd. You can see wrestlers as you've seen on NXT before, and even they had the Chinese woman who was in the Royal Rumble. She was definitely there, and she was putting on a smile. I saw the video. If you haven't seen this, go to the WWE PC YouTube channel. They have a video, and they put out the announcer when they brought the women in to tell them that they were going to be in the Royal Rumble. And Xia Li, I think that's what her name is. She was just super excited. She was crying and she thought she was in trouble. It was the cutest thing. So definitely go out and kind of scroll through their YouTube channel and check that out. But overall, great match, 6-man tag. I watched this on my phone while watching the halftime show on the TV. And to be honest, I was probably watching this match a lot more than I was watching the actual halftime show. Not going to get into the halftime show, but it did suck, just like the Super Bowl did. The Super Bowl was atrocious. But anyways, I digress. The match was very good. Don't know what they're going to do with this at NXT next week. Are they going to play into this? I wouldn't be shocked if this was just kind of a in-the-bubble match where it happened. The babyfaces went over. Adam Cole is the one that eats the pin here, so not a shock there if the babyfaces were to win. The only heel that doesn't have a championship was going to take the loss here. So, going forward, what does this mean? Does Aleister Black stay in NXT? Possibly. I would say no. I would have loved to see that Aleister Black-Dean Ambrose feud going into WrestleMania as Dean's last thing. But it doesn't look like we're going to get that. It looks like we're going to get some sort of EC3 Dean Ambrose feud, which not the biggest fan of, but hey, maybe just Dean Ambrose being used terribly for the next couple months is actually really good for Dean Ambrose, because everybody on the internet's going to get angry at WWE, and he's just going to be a house of fire when he turns up wherever he turns up after he leaves WWE. But anyways, definitely, I suggest if you haven't seen it, check out the match. I kind of spoiled it already, but it's kind of, I wouldn't say a spot fest, but a lot of spots just everywhere. I mean, it's Ricochet. Ricochet's doing a whole bunch of stuff. There's a viral video going around of Adam Cole hitting the Canadian Destroyer, so definitely go on and check that out. So finally, we have the Total Bellas review, episode 3 from last week. As I said, there was no Total Bellas this week because of the Super Bowl and a lot of rich people problems, and Daniel Bryan might be considered a hypocrite, because I did not see this at first glance, but in reading the report, apparently the Bellas, Daniel Bryan, and the family was ever at a restaurant, and Daniel Bryan was drinking out of a plastic straw. I know, the hypocrisy. But I think now Daniel Bryan has seen the error of his ways. I'm going to have to stay tuned on other episodes of Total Bellas and keep an eye out for Daniel Bryan's drinking out of plastic straws, because if he is, this is going to be an issue. But hopefully this was just a lapse in judgment. Maybe they told him it was a wooden straw, but he drank out of it. Maybe that was like his first sip, and he realized it was only plastic, but then after that, he already drank out of it. So then, but anyways, so Nikki Bella tells Brie and Daniel that she is not going to actually be moving to LA. She will be staying in San Diego, and she's going to be getting an Airbnb at the near the beach, actually on the beach. So Nikki and her mom go to the beach and they look at the house. Beautiful house, big house. Well, not a big house, but it was like a 2-story little beach house. It was very nice. The only thing was that you have, this famous person living on the beach. Not a whole lot of security there. Not Nikki, but her mom's freaking out. Probably doesn't help that they have this like big old camera crew following her around, and that's what's like bringing all this unwanted attention to them. So I'm just saying, if you don't want any attention, don't bring, a $10,000 camera crew with you. But I digress. So then Mama Bella just goes on and on about security and says she's going to get a badge. She's going to, mollywop these hoes that come in to the Nikki Bella establishment, and they're going to whoop some candy ass around here. But nope, that ain't going to happen. So apparently Nikki is going through a midlife crisis. Apparently she rents a Ferrari or something and picks up Brie. Apparently this beach house that she's renting is $20,000 a month. So, it's a hefty price to be Nikki Bella. So some other stuff going around here. So Nikki and Brie go to a bar. They meet up some of her friends. They start smoking cigars. And just Nikki Bella, they're playing into this whole midlife crisis. Now that the chains are off, you might say. John Cena was holding Nikki down, and now the real Nikki Bella is coming out, and she's a party animal, and she's going to live it up, and she's going to have all this fun because John Cena's a fuddy-duddy, and he had all these rules, and now Nikki's going to go out and smoke all the cigars she wants, and live on that beach house, and soak up the sun with her toes in the sand and all that other stuff. So we go to SmackDown. and they are setting up the whole Daniel Bryan and Brie going up against Miz and Maurice feud. So they're kind of setting the groundwork for that. Next couple of weeks, we're going to see them train and go up to the match itself and Evolution and everything that's going on with that. So we get to see some random cameos from some of the wrestlers backstage, which is always nice and fun to see. So and then the finale, the final scene of Total Bellas is Nikki is throwing a welcoming party or whatever, and she invites like almost the entire city of San Diego comes over. Just all these different random people from the neighborhood come in, and Nikki is having fun. She's out on the beach. She's not welcoming everybody, and Brie apparently is just getting all flustered because people are coming into her house, and Nikki, God forbid, is not introducing, not helping them out and getting them a drink, because these people are just so helpless with their $20,000 a month beach houses that they can't go get a drink for themselves, apparently. But anyways, they go to the beach. They have, all the girls there. It's a girls, not a girls party. I don't even know what the hell I'm saying at this point. But anyways, they kind of end the show with all the girls being up on the beach toasting and saying, new Nikki and all this other BS. So then, the final scene is Nikki going to dinner or lunch with her Dancing with the Stars companion, her dance partner Artem, who's a very attractive looking man, and they sit down and they look all awkward, and then Nikki's like, I'm single, and then Artem's like, oh, I'm single, I'm not seeing anybody, and then they get like the googly eyes and they look at each other, and then it goes to black and it says to be continued. So what's going to happen? Nikki Bella and Artem, are they going to be a thing? Are they going to go out? Are they going to do you-know-what to each other? Who exactly knows? But we have to stay tuned till next week to find out. And that'll do it for me for today. Thank you very much for tuning in for this illustrious edition of Under the Radar. A little bit shorter than normal, but we didn't have a full-length NXT TV show. Not a whole lot of news coming out of WWE in the wrestling world after last week with Dean Ambrose saying he's done. So a little bit of a slow week this week thus far, but can't wait till the Bullet Cast coming up this week. A lot of big stuff on Raw. Haven't seen SmackDown yet because SmackDown hasn't even started when I'm recording this. So thank y'all, and until next time, goodbye and good night. Bang.